I'm Bill Moyers. Welcome to the Journal, on air and online. We'll be here every week beginning this Friday, April 27th on most stations. John Stewart of The Daily Show joins me this week to talk about how faking the news can reveal more of the truth than all the Sunday morning talk shows put together. But tonight, we bring you this special edition of the Journal called Buying the War.
Major funding is provided by the Partridge Foundation, a John and Polly Guff charitable fund. Park Foundation, dedicated to heightening public awareness of critical issues. The Herb Alpert Foundation. Marilyn and Bob Clements and the Clements Foundation. Bernard and Audrey Rappaport and the Bernard and Audrey Rappaport Foundation. The Fetzer Institute. The Orfila Family Foundation. The Public Welfare Foundation. And by our sole corporate sponsor, Mutual of America, providing retirement plan products and services to employers and individuals since 1945. Mutual of America, your retirement company.
4 years ago this spring, the Bush administration took leave of reality and plunged our country into a war so poorly planned it soon turned into a disaster. The story of how high officials misled the country has been told, but they couldn't have done it on their own. They needed a compliant press to pass on their propaganda as news and cheer them on. Since then, thousands of people have died, and many are dying to this day. Yet the story of how the media bought what the White House was selling has not been told in depth on television. So as the war rages into its fifth year, we look back at those months leading up to the invasion when our press largely surrendered its independence and skepticism to join with our government in marching to war. Our report was produced and directed by Kathleen Hughes and edited by Allison Amron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Good evening. I'm pleased to take your questions tonight.
2 weeks before he will order America to war, President Bush calls a press conference to make the case for disarming Saddam Hussein.
Iraq is a part of the war on terror. It's a country that trains terrorists, a country that can arm terrorists. Saddam Hussein and his weapons are a direct threat to this country.
For months now, his administration has been determined to link Iraq to 9/11.
September the 11th should say to the American people that we're now a battlefield.
At least a dozen times during this press conference, he will invoke 9/11 and Al-Qaeda to justify a preemptive attack on a country that has not attacked America.
Mr. President, if you decide...
But the White House press corps will ask no hard questions tonight about those claims. Listen to what the President says.
This is a scripted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Scripted. Sure enough, the President's staff has given him a list of reporters to call on.
Let's see here. Elizabeth. Gregory. April. Did you have a question, or did I call upon you cold?
I have a question.
Okay. I'm sure you do have a question.
He sort of giggled and laughed, and the reporters sort of laughed. I don't know if it was out embarrassment for him or embarrassment for them, because they still continued to play along. After his question was done, they all shot up their hands and pretended they had a chance of being called on.
Mr. President, how is your faith guiding you?
My faith sustains me because I pray daily. I pray for guidance.
I think it just crystallized what was wrong with the press coverage during the run-up to war. I think they felt like the war was going to happen, and the best thing for them to do was to get out of the way.
Thank you for your questions. Good night.
Our story begins with the horror of 9/11.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
That looks like a second plane.
Like everyone else, journalists were stunned by the death and devastation.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
And there, as you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord.
If there is a war against terrorism that started, rather ongoing right now, it started here at about 8:45 this morning.
There are no words that can describe this. I was deeply moved by 9/11. I don't know of any American who wasn't. I think we all bought into that the world had changed.
I think the atmosphere in the United States after September 11 was so overwhelmingly patriotic and overwhelmingly, we must do something about this.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
George Bush is the president. He makes the decisions. And, you know, it's just one American. Wherever he wants me to line up, just tell me where. I didn't mean it in a journalistic sense. I know it may have come across that way. I meant it in a sense as an individual citizen. Mr. President, if you need me, if you need me to go to hell and back for my country, I will do it. But I'll tell you this, if they could go down to ground zero